doodads and flashes and a lot of pictures and things like that because you really just want to focus on those key positions and experiences because that's not going to impress them with all like visuals and having everything tricked out on your resume because when it comes down to it they want to know what did you do, what did you accomplish.
Right, and how are you appealing and why would they want you, right? So that's really what you're trying to do. And it's terrible to feel like you have to sell yourself, but unfortunately, that's what we're doing right now. We need to market ourselves. So it's really like Linda said, you got to be succinct and you got to find those buzzwords that are going to matter to people. And you have to do it, and not do it on 3 or 4 or 5 pages. And I think, we talked a little bit, Linda, the last time about that checklist, right? And
We
how,
did.
it was really helpful for us to be able to stay focused because this is a very emotional time for us. And we wanted to make sure that nothing fell through the cracks. And I think we did a really good job with our checklist, right?
No, I'm telling you, we did a fantastic job with our checklist.
Which is amazing.
You're underselling it.
Amazing.
You're underselling it, Shelley. We did an amazing job. Amazing job. Like we really thought through our transition out of the company. What was everything that we needed to make sure that we got answers to, that we met whatever criteria or obligations for the company for signatures and documentations, but also how to make sure that everything was kind of left in a state where we felt it's there. It's with the company now. It's not with us. We're done. We feel good about it. To the point where we actually were going through, and one of the things, because we're leaving around some significant, holiday time, not a lot of people are going to be in the office. And so we kept thinking, well, what are we going to do with our computers? How are we going to hand those in? How are we going to hand in the phones? Like, how is that going to happen? So our checklist, we said, okay, who do we ask? Who do we go to? How do we find out this information of how to go about doing it? So I have a pretty good relationship with the person who takes care and manages the computers on our floor. So I had a little chat with her and asked her, I said, I'm going to be leaving this last week. There's not going to be a lot of people in the office. What do we do? And she immediately said, well, you don't really have to hand it physically to me. I said, oh, I don't? I said, well, what about if I just put it on the docking station, lock it up, tell you where the key is, and leave everything on my desk for you? She's like, oh, that works. And then she told me who to write an email to and who to notify that I had done this and where my computers could be found. So I was like, fantastic. I don't have to wait around. I can drop these off anytime I want.
Because that's going to be a really difficult day to begin with.
Exactly.
When you go and you hand in your stuff after being there for so long and loving your job and now saying goodbye.
So it was interesting. We had done one task, which was our credit cards, our corporate cards, and handing those in. So we're handing them into HR. We did it at the same time. And I said to her, I said, I'm going to be leaving my computer on my desk locked. And I talked to the tech people, and they said this was fine, that we could do that. And Shelley, what did she say? What did the HR person say?
She was amazed. She said, oh my God, we haven't even thought about that yet. That's exactly what we'll do. So I guess there's going to be an email or something that goes out, some type of communication that says, here's what you can do. Here's the protocol about leaving your computers and phones or whatever all locked up and blah, blah, blah. So we were so good at our checklist that we actually helped HR create some protocol for everybody that's getting fired.
So all we did, we were looking at each other as we walked away, and we looked and we said, laughing. Oh my God. We're laughing.
And we were saying, we definitely need to talk about this in our next podcast, how we helped HR develop protocol on how to get us out of the building without our equipment. It was pretty amazing. But I have to say, again, we talk about this all the time about having a buddy, and it made it so much easier when Linda and I just went trotting over with our little credit cards, and handed them in and said, here you go, because to do it by yourself, it was just easier. It was easier to have a buddy to say, you know what, screw that. It's done. You can have your freaking card. I don't need it anymore. I'm not going anywhere anymore. Have it. Take it.
Not
I don't want it.
Anywhere. Right. It is easier. I mean, the two things is being able to have, number one, someone to kind of go through this with you. We talked about it, like how much we rely on each other to do this together. And then the other thing is, the checklist has helped us kind of feel better as we go through and we kind of check these things off and we kind of focus on the task at hand. And I think that helps us with the emotional roller coaster ride that we talked about. It kind of keeps it a little bit in check so that we don't go, nuts off the deep end and have a entire cake on our own.
Yeah, but you know what? I think and to Linda's point, it's funny because she came over. She was in a low mood. I was in a low mood, and we're feeling these things basically at the same time. And there's all these other things, these extraneous factors that are obviously, influencing the way we feel. But it's pretty cool to have that. But I have to say, if you don't have a buddy, it's okay. Make sure that you're relying on a family member or a friend or something where you can just talk about your emotions and the situations. And even when we talked about our podcast and be able to send us stuff to our website that says, this is how I dealt with it. I didn't have a buddy, but this is what made it important for me. And we'll talk about those things in our upcoming podcast, how everybody out there, what they did, what coping mechanisms they used to help them get through a very difficult situation. So please, again, we're looking for those so we can talk about them. And don't feel like you have to have a buddy that goes through it, but rely on somebody to help you, because it really does help to be able to dump what you're feeling on somebody.
Yeah, and absolutely, just send anything in. We have the website off. What now?
Now what?
Now what? Sorry.
She wants to put it not in alphabetical order. It's now what.
And also we have our Google Mail, at Gmail. So you can do off now what at gmail.com. Either one you can get to us. And absolutely everyone can benefit from whatever other people's coping mechanisms or other little tricks and that they could use and tools that they could use to get through this. And a couple of things as we go through is I think it'd be good, for us to share, Shelley, some of the things that we did put on our checklist so that people kind of get an idea of the kinds of things and details that they need to get into. So some of it is just like basic stuff, like if they're going to pay you for vacation, make sure that you know exactly how much vacation that they will pay you back and where is the source of the vacation number of days and all of that. And when do they need it by?
And when are they going to pay you for that? Does it get rolled into your severance, or does it come out, at a different time? Because we're learning all these different things. Everything's going to be at different times, but it's good to know when you can expect a check in the mail, since your last one's going to be, the end of the year, basically, so you can start budgeting for when that other money comes in to help get you through this transition.
So both anything that they're paying you extra, ensure you know not only the vacation days, the actual severance itself, if you're owed a bonus or anything like that, make sure you know exactly what dates all those things are coming in. And sometimes they don't know exactly. So you have to keep after them to make sure that they understand when that stuff is going to come in. The other is if you owe them any sort of signed documents or documentation for the transition, making sure what the dates are. Do they have to be in person?
Right.
Can you scan and email? What is it that you need to do? And then we talked about, the phones, the laptops, and the credit cards and all that kind of stuff. Anything to do with the badges and what happens with the badges and all of that. And then also whether or not you even have to do an exit interview. Is it optional or not? At our company, it was optional. We didn't have to do one. And then understanding, making sure that you get some sort of legal review of the document. If you have a good friend or someone who's an attorney, or you have someone who typically will read through more legal documentation, clauses, things like that, just to make sure that you understand what you can and cannot do as you leave the company. Is there anything you're signing away that maybe you shouldn't for whatever reason? And then, very important, that Shelley just brought up to our checklist that she just added was
the unemployment. We know we're due. We're entitled to it. We don't know anything about it. We haven't found out anything from our company, and we need to. We need to understand, how do we go about doing it? I've never applied for unemployment before, and I don't think Linda has either. And so we need to understand that. So that's really important, because everybody's entitled, to get something to help you over that, that loss of money that's going to occur until you find your next job.
Yeah. So, I mean, make sure that you kind of have a sense of all the things that you need to get done. Think through them, think through all the details. If you can get a buddy to, put a checklist together, even review it with HR to see if you've missed anything or go through it with them. If you don't have another person who you're going through this with, certainly they can be helpful also. And anything else, Joe?
No, I think that's really it. Just to kind of recap, we've had a little bit of a roller coaster of some low moods today, but we've worked through it, and it's great to do these podcasts because I'll tell you what, by the time we're done at the end of the podcast, I feel really good.
Yeah.
I feel like not only are we helping ourselves, but we're helping a lot of other folks out there in the same situation, and I'm in a completely different mood. I know the wine helped as well, and the cheese and crackers and stuff.
It did.
And potato chips.
But I think sharing those feelings
Yeah.
and just talking it out and kind of getting some of this stuff out, having a laugh or two
Yeah, you
through
gotta
it
laugh.
all.
It's because you know what? If you don't laugh, who wants to be crying all the time? You just don't. You don't need to be in that low spot all the time, but it is also okay to have those low moments. You
Right.
need them because that's the way you're going to heal. That's really important. And then if we just talk about what are we going to talk about next, Linda, in our next podcast?
So on the next one, we thought about doing is continuing that whole transition theme, but talking about all the different networks and networking and what you need to get yourselves out there. Like we talked a little bit about a resume, but then there's so much out there. Like how do you get your resume out there? Online applying is completely different.
Right. So we'll talk about all that stuff.
Recruiters, all that sort of thing. How do you get your networking out there? How do you get your name, your resume, and try to find out those opportunities and what we've done so far and what's helped us.
And remember, if you've got any comments of things that coping mechanisms that you've had or any other helpful hints, make sure you send them to us because we'd love to be able to bring them up, when we open up our podcast and talk about, hey, we got this from Joe Schmo on here's something I did to help me through those low moments. Maybe it was going out and getting a hot fudge sundae. Who knows? But we'd like to hear from you.
Absolutely. So don't remember either our website or you can get us on Gmail at offnowwhat@gmail.com.
Okay.
So thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Take care. Bye bye.